Welcome and thank you for joining me for this Wheel and Anchor webinar featuring our upcoming Sojourn Castles of Poland. Now, you're either going to be excited about the idea of visiting Poland or you're going to wonder why anyone would want to. Let me give you my perspective right from downtown Warsaw. When you think of European destinations, Paris, Rome, or Barcelona might come to mind first. Poland rarely tops bucket lists for Canadian travelers, but after exploring this remarkable country, I'm convinced that it should. There's a common misconception that Poland, tucked away in what many consider to be Eastern Europe, somehow lacks the cultural richness or architectural splendor of its Western neighbors. But nothing could be further from the truth. From Krakow's perfectly preserved medieval square to Gdansk's distinctive Baltic architecture, Poland offers breathtaking beauty without the overwhelming crowds. What makes Poland truly exceptional is how it has transformed its challenging history into profound resilience. A country that disappeared from maps for 123 years, endured the horrors of World War II, and emerged from communist rule just 3 decades ago, has blossomed into a vibrant, forward-looking nation that, while honoring its complex past. Today, as Poland stands firmly with Ukraine and reinforces democratic values, visiting takes on added significance. You're witnessing history unfolding real time while supporting a country's democracy's frontier. Beyond the compelling history, you'll discover world-class museums, UNESCO sites, remarkable cuisine that goes far beyond just the pierogi, and welcoming locals, all at a value that makes Western Europe seem overpriced. Join us as we explore Poland's captivating blend of old-world charm and modern energy, a journey that promises to be as enlightening as it is enjoyable. Before we start, I just want to give you a bit of an overview of how this webinar is going to go. First of all, I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction into Wheel and Anchor and who we are and how we're different from any other travel company. Inside of that, I'll introduce some of the key members of our team, and from there, I'll take you on to the map and explain the geographical layout of our trip. Right after that, I'll talk about some of the highlights on a day-by-day basis with some personal accounts of my own visit there recently, which enabled us to put this unique trip together. Now, if you've joined us for a webinar before, you can certainly jump ahead to the map or the day-by-day by using the YouTube chapters, which you'll find either immediately under this video or in the description box. But if this is your first time with Wheel and Anchor, I'd invite you to stay on with us through the next few slides so you get to know a bit more about who we are and why we travel the way that we do. And then let me just say one more thing about our Sojourns. This is a Sojourn style trip. And these combine curated group activities like guided historical walks or cooking classes with unstructured time to explore independently. So imagine, if you will, mornings visiting a local artisan workshop and then an afternoon free to wander the cobblestone streets or relax at a cafe or maybe even catch a local show. As with all of our trips, we handle all of the key logistics, that is the accommodation, selected dining experiences, and expert-led excursions, while leaving plenty of room for personal discovery. These kind of trips suit those who want to avoid the constant packing and unpacking and rush sightseeing that is the norm, unfortunately, of most other tour companies. The slower rhythm fosters connections with locals and landscapes, and it offers a middle ground between brief tours and extended stays. Ultimately, our sojourns are about savoring a destination's essence, not just checking landmarks off a list. Our Sojourn programs are limited to a maximum of 18 members to ensure the intimacy of this small group. So before I get into the itinerary, let me share a bit about what makes Wheel and Anchor different. Because as I said before, we're not just another tour company. In fact, we are a community of Canadian travelers united by a shared philosophy. That is that the most meaningful experiences happen when you take a little more time to go beyond the surface of a destination, and just as importantly, when you share those moments with like-minded people. I'll get into a little bit more of that in a moment, but if you're watching this, you probably have a travel bucket list somewhere. Most travelers do. Maybe it's written down, maybe it's in an online list, or maybe it's just in your head. But here's what I've learned after 3 decades of organizing travel for Canadians. The real magic often lies beyond the bucket list places. It's about the unexpected moments that occur inadvertently when you're heading the wrong direction down a street and then you discover a cool part of town that you might not have otherwise seen, or maybe you poke your head inside a gallery that's not quite open only to be invited in by the owner or by the artist for an impromptu conversation. These are the kind of stories that we tell when we get home because they fall outside the structured part of any organized trip. But perhaps most importantly, it's about who you're sharing these experiences with. And there's something uniquely comforting about exploring the world with fellow Canadians, people who just get you, who speak your language both literally and figuratively, and who often become lifelong friends rather than just fellow travelers who you may never see again. So, if you value good conversation and a shared laugh in surprising places and the freedom to connect authentically or explore independently, you might just have found your travel home with us here at Wheel and Anchor. Our travel philosophy centers on two fundamental goals that transform how you experience the world, and we call them being well traveled and being well connected. First, let me talk a little bit about being well traveled, which doesn't really mean a race to collect passport stamps, because it's actually a practice of presence. Sometimes I like to call it the curious wanderer's mindset. You slow down, tune in, and allow a place to reveal itself on its own terms. When you savor the rhythms, the stories, and the everyday rituals around you, a journey shifts from sightseeing to insight, becoming an experience that shapes you long after you've returned home. If you think about your truly well traveled friends, those are the ones with the most unique stories and experiences, not to mention learnings from their travels around the world. So, secondly, we're all about being well connected. And this is where Wheel and Anchor really differs from conventional tour operators, because connection isn't just about your fellow travelers, although that's a large part of it, but it's about how travel deepens your relationship with the world. We create opportunities for you to get hands on with arts or crafts or maybe cooking, learning from who have kept centuries old techniques alive, and to point out the places where you can actually interact with locals and have the kinds of conversations that you might have with folks back home on the other side of town. Together, these elements create what we call the Wheel and Anchor transformation. You return home carrying more than souvenirs. You'll have newfound perspectives that enrich your daily life and lasting friendships that continue inspiring you long after your luggage is unpacked. This is travel that changes you. I just want to say a couple more things before we delve into the details of this trip, because I want to tell you a little bit about who we are. Who are the people behind Wheel and Anchor, beyond our members, of course. And so, first of all, my name is Gordon Drager. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor. And as I've been mentioned before, I've been working in and around travel for well over 35 years. I've organized trips for Canadians to just about all parts of the globe. But I couldn't pull off all of the promises I've talked about before without an incredible team of people, all of whom are as dedicated to ensuring that we deliver some of the best experiences possible for our members as I am. Now, the person who's most important for you, though, is our lead trip specialist. She is Paula Zarnick. You can see a picture of her here to me to the right. And she's the person, when you drop us a note, you give us a call, who'll be most likely frontline to make sure that all of your questions get answered and to assist you in joining us if you decide to come along for this trip or any of our trips. So let's now dive into the highlights of the trip. First, as always, the map. And the trip is going to start off in the southeastern part of Poland, in Krakow, where we'll spend a whole 5 nights because it's really worth it. Krakow was once the royal capital, and it's still the cultural heart of the country, with its castle-topped hill and amazing medieval squares, as well as its poignant Jewish heritage. Krakow is a place where past and present are deeply intertwined. From there, we'll head a little bit southwest to make a somber stop at Auschwitz. And that same day, we'll continue on to Wroclaw, which is a colorful city of bridges and little hidden dwarfs. It's a place of whimsical charm and Gothic elegance. And from here, we'll then venture into the mountains to visit Grand Książ Castle and its layered history. We'll then head to the northeast to Łódź and then on to Warsaw, Poland's phoenix like capital. It was, of course, nearly completely destroyed in World War II and then painstakingly rebuilt and is now full of leafy parks, elegant boulevards, and fascinating museums. We'll, of course, take in a Chopin concert here as we get to learn how this city has transformed itself into one of Europe's most important capitals. And then it'll be off to the countryside, first to Olsztyn, where Copernicus once lived, and then on to the town of Giżycko in the heart of the Missourian Lake District. Here, forests meet water and days slow down, and we'll take time to visit the Wolf Lair, which was Hitler's famous headquarters and his hideout for much of the war. And we'll have the time to walk along the town's tranquil shorelines. The final chapter of this journey will begin in Malbork, which is home to the world's largest brick castle, which is an astonishing legacy of the Teutonic Knights. And from there, our final stop will be in Gdansk, which is, of course, on the Baltic coast. And here we'll have time to explore its Hanseatic harbor. We'll sail over to the nearby town of Sopot and take time to understand the city's role in modern European history by going through all the museums, memorials, and the conversation, of course, with the locals. Rather than racing from one place to the next, we've built in time to slow down, settle in, and explore deeply, giving you not just snapshots of Poland, but a chance to feel its strength, its creativity, and its heart. So let's now dive into the day-by-day details of our 18-day itinerary for this Castles of Poland Sojourn program. On our first day, we'll fly to Krakow, which, as I mentioned, is Poland's cultural capital, and it'll be our base for the first few days of our trip. Now, although there's no non-stop flights from Canada to Krakow, you can easily get there in a single stopover from most major cities. After landing at Balice Airport, we'll transfer you to your hotel and we'll give you a chance to settle in, and you'll have the whole day free, which means either a quiet afternoon and evening, or maybe venturing out a little from our centrally located hotel to get your first taste of the city on your own. Let me give you a bit of an introduction from my last visit there. Krakow is a city where history breathes through every cobblestone. Founded in the 7th century, it served as Poland's capital for over 500 years. Its old town, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, survived World War II largely intact, making it one of Europe's best preserved medieval cities. But Krakow isn't frozen in time. This square has been a hub of trade and culture since the 13th century. The cloth hall in behind me here once connected merchants from east and west, and today it's filled with artisans crafting amber jewelry and traditional folk art. The city's layers run deep. Its Gothic spires and Baroque churches tell stories of royal ambition, while districts like Kazimierz bear witness to a vibrant Jewish history that was tragically altered by the 20th century. Yet Krakow's resilience shines through. Its restored tenement buildings, thriving cafe culture, and a food scene that blends pierogi and pretzels with modern innovation. For us, Krakow is a place that feels both familiar and foreign. The 4 distinct seasons mirror our own. The compact center is ideal for exploring on foot. And in fact, this urban park wraps around the old town center, and you can do the loop in less than an hour. Today, on our first full day together, we'll set out to explore the heart of Krakow, seeing some of those things that I was talking about in the last clip. There are a myriad of medieval squares, royal landmarks, and the streets that once shaped an empire. We'll begin, as we do with all of our trips, with a bit of a short orientation, which is a chance to meet your host. You'll probably have met them on the day that you arrived, but this is our formal start of our trip, and we'll have an explanation of how the journey is going to unfold and what it means to travel with Wheel and Anchor. Then we'll set off on foot with our local guide, and we'll explore the city, starting with Europe's largest medieval square. From the clip again that I just shared, we'll see there St. Mary's Basilica, the Cloth Hall, the Town Hall, Tower, and then we'll walk along the royal route to Wawel Hill, visiting the cathedral and castle chambers, which were once home to Polish kings. Behind me here is the magnificent Wawel Castle in Krakow, the heart of Poland's rich history and culture. This castle has witnessed over 1,000 years of Polish heritage, from medieval kings to modern-day tourism. But what makes Wawel special is not just its stunning architecture, but the stories it holds. Here, you can walk in the footsteps of Polish royalty, marvel at a Leonardo da Vinci painting, and even see the legendary Wawel dragon's bones. Artistry and memory will take center stage on our program today as we visit a working stained glass studio and we take time to explore the Kazimierz Jewish Quarter. We'll start off with a visit to Krakow's Stained Glass Museum, which is a working studio since 1902. And here we'll actually learn how artisans use their traditional techniques. We'll even get a chance to try in a hands on guided workshop. You might even recognize some of the finished pieces from churches around the city, including the one at Valel Cathedral that we will have seen the day prior. Next, we'll board a Melex, which is a little electric cart, and it'll take us on a short little journey down to Kazimierz, which was once the heart of Jewish life in Krakow. After lunch nearby, we'll explore through its charming, winding streets and centuries old buildings. We'll have a chance to visit the Remu Synagogue and Cemetery, as well as the Old Synagogue, which is now a museum that chronicles Jewish life and traditions in Krakow. Another Melex ride will take us back to our hotel at the end of this remarkable day. You'll have the whole day to explore Krakow today with several optional experiences available from salt mines to socialist era neighborhoods. We pride ourselves on providing a lot of free days, particularly on our Sojourn type programs, because then you get to decide what to do. You can spend the day completely at leisure, or you can choose from a number of activities that you can explore on your own, or maybe with some newfound friends that you'll have met along the way. A popular option, as I was alluding to before, is the Wielica salt mine, which is a UNESCO listed site with underground chapels, sculptures, and halls literally carved out of salt. The craftsmanship and scale of this place are truly extraordinary. It's like stepping into a glittering cathedral below ground. Another meaningful exhibit for a lot of folks is the Oskar Schindler Factory Museum. I visited it myself on my last visit to Krakow. This place documents life in Krakow during World War II, and it is a powerful and very personal exhibit. It's a particularly popular site, and for those that are interested in visiting this museum, it's essential to book tickets in advance. Now, for something completely different, you might head over to an area called Nova Huta, which is a district that was built back in the 1950s as a model socialist community. There's wide boulevards, monumental housing, and the now closed steelworks, which tell a story of life that is very different under the regime of the day. Today, we'll head out of town a little bit to venture into one of Poland's smallest but most beautiful national parks, home to forests, more castles, and limestone cliffs. Just outside the city lies the Oitzow National Park, a peaceful escape of wooded trails and dramatic rock formations. We'll walk through valleys shaped over millions of years with stops at natural wonders like Hercules Club, which is a stone pillar rising skyward, and Krakow Gate, a rocky archway that perfectly frames the landscape. At the heart of the park stands Oitzow Castle, once a strategic stronghold defending the approach to the city. But we'll also have a chance to visit the Chapel on the Water, a small wooden church built on stilts above a stream. After lunch in the area, we'll return to Krakow in the afternoon, and you'll have plenty of time to enjoy your last afternoon at leisure. We'll check out and say goodbye to Krakow and head west-southwest, stopping first at the Auschwitz Memorial, before we continue on to Wrocław for dinner and the next chapter of our journey. Our day begins with a sobering but essential visit to the Auschwitz Memorial and Museum, a site that needs no introduction. This former concentration camp has been preserved as a place of memory, reflection, and testimony to the darkest days of the last century. We'll be guided through Auschwitz I, where the brick barracks and guard towers still stand, and then we'll continue over to Auschwitz II, Birkenau. Here, the scale of the complex becomes clear. It's railway tracks and wooden barracks and the remains of gas chambers and crematoria. After time to reflect here, we'll continue our journey to Wrocław, which is one of Poland's most colorful and cultural cities. We'll arrive in the late afternoon, enjoy dinner together at a local restaurant to close out our day. You may not have heard of Wrocław before, but I was certainly taken aback on my visit. We'll explore the city's past and present today, from its medieval markets to its Baroque cathedrals, with a whimsical touch of bronze. We're going to start out this morning with a walking tour of the old city, but let me first take you up to the top of the cathedral for a bird's eye view. This is Wrocław Lower Silesia, and I'm standing on the ancient Bridge of Penitence, which uniquely connects two towers of a cathedral. We're standing at the crossroads of Polish, German, Czech, and Austrian influences. The city was once known as Breslau, and it reveals Poland's complex borderland history through its architecture and its atmosphere. But what makes Wrocław special is its island-dotted river landscape. We're actually on one of 12 islands connected by over 100 bridges. The vibrant market square that you can see behind me showcases colorful townhouses that were restored after World War II. This is a place that few overseas tourists venture to, and yet for me, what makes a visit here so interesting as part of an exploration around Poland. One of the things that I appreciate most about cities like Wrocław is this combination between centuries old architecture and the modern art like you see in behind me. This day will be one of royal intrigue and dramatic landscapes as we travel to one of Poland's grandest castles and explore its halls, tunnels, and Baroque gardens. Little over an hour outside of Wrocław, rising above the forests and the Owl Mountains, Książ Castle is one of the largest and most storied castles in the whole country. Our guided visit is going to take us through the palace's richly decorated rooms, staircases, and halls, which have been shaped by centuries of noble families, particularly the Hochbergs. But there's a darker layer to the site's past. During World War II, the Nazis occupied the castle and began building underground tunnels as part of the mysterious Riese project. Exhibits inside the castle trace this period alongside its earlier history. Outside, we'll stroll through terraced gardens in the Baroque style with panoramic views over the Pelznitska River. We'll pause for lunch at Biblioteka, a lovely restaurant on the castle grounds, before returning back to Wrocław in the late afternoon. We'll then check out of our hotel and cross back across the country from Wrocław, making our way to Warsaw, with a stop for lunch and an exploration of the post-industrial city of Łódź. Since it would otherwise be a few hours' drive if we went straight on to Warsaw, we want to take a stop in what is not one of Poland's most touristic highlights. But nevertheless, this industrial city has been transforming itself for years and has a number of remarkable sites. Now, like many words in Polish, the name of this town is not pronounced the way it looks, because it's actually called Łódź. And you'll see how I made the mistake of mispronouncing it when I visited. But nevertheless, I wanted to share with you about one important urban sculpture. Part of that sculpture is right beneath my feet as they've created a sidewalk with almost 17,000 paving stones, each one bearing the names of citizens who adore their city. This is where Poland's industrial past meets its creative future, making Łódź an essential stop for travelers seeking authentic Polish culture beyond the typical tourist destinations. We'll have arrived into Warsaw the evening before, and just a heads up that our hotel is located adjacent to a huge square surrounding the so called Palace of Culture. And that particular part of town looks a little decrepit because it's a relic of Soviet era urbanism that was never meaningfully modernized, compounded by decades of political indecision and postponed redevelopment, which of course might sound familiar to residents of some of our larger cities in Canada. Our first morning will begin with a leisurely walking tour as we explore the city's old town, which was lovingly rebuilt after World War II. There's colorful facades and cobbled squares, and of course, the royal castle, which reflects centuries of resilience and pride. But let me take you right there for a moment. I'm in the historic heart of Warsaw, walking along the meticulously reconstructed medieval walls near the magnificent Barbican just behind me, which is a striking red brick fortress that was built back in the middle of the 16th century by the Italian architect Jan Baptist the Venetian. This impressive semicircular bastion once protected the entrance to the old town, although it only saw battle once during the Swedish invasion about 100 years after it was built. If you look closely at the structure, you'll see a dark line which marks the original foundations, a testament to Warsaw's remarkable post-war reconstruction. From these ancient walls, you can see Warsaw's UNESCO-listed Old Town, which was painstakingly rebuilt after World War II, and they used all the original bricks as well as 18th century paintings as guides. This extraordinary restoration symbolizes the Polish spirit, a city that, like its walls, has risen time again from destruction to stand proudly at the crossroads of history. After soaking in all that history and culture, of which Warsaw has more than plenty, you'll have the afternoon at leisure, and you may just want to walk along the royal route to take in some of the lovely cafes and shops. But that evening, we're going to take in some music from the perhaps the most famous composer ever to have come out of Poland, and specifically not far from Warsaw, and that is of Frederick Chopin. There's a picture of him here. It's a wonderful salon where we'll enjoy a short recital of his music, and we'll wrap up with a delicious evening of local cuisine at a restaurant that I picked out when I was there. We'll take it a little more easy on our next day in Warsaw and roll up our sleeves to try our hand at making a little bit of Poland's most iconic comfort food, and then you'll have the rest of the day to explore the city on your own. And if you weren't sure what I meant by that, well, of course, I'm talking about the famous pierogi. And so, guided by some local chefs, we'll learn how to make them, how to fill them, and shape them into whatever form that our heart desires on that day. And then, of course, we'll get to sample them all and bring home those recipes back home. As I mentioned, you'll have the rest of the day at leisure. So many things to see and do. Just wandering around might be the best choice for many. The Vistula Boulevard is a riverfront path that's lined with parks and cafes and has some lovely views looking up to the old town. You might head over to the University of Warsaw Library's rooftop garden, which is kind of a secret spot with lush greenery and a panoramic view over the city. For those who are looking to explore a little bit more of the diversity of the city, you might cross over the river to visit the Praga district, which is a creative post-industrial neighborhood. There's also the Polin Museum of History of Polish Jews, which offers a very moving and interactive experience of Jewish life over the centuries. And of course, another option is the Warsaw Uprising Museum, which tells about the powerful story of the resistance movement back in 1944. No matter what you choose to do, Warsaw will bless you with all kinds of amazing opportunities. From here, our journey continues up to the north into the Masurian countryside, where we'll make a little stop in the city of Olsztyn before reaching our lakeside base. We'll get in around midday, and our walking tour will begin in the medieval Old Town. At the center of it all is the Gothic castle of the Warmian bishops, which might not mean much, but it was once home to Nicholas Copernicus. Now, when I mention the name, it might sound familiar, unless you're, of course, knowledgeable in astronomy, in which case you'll know that he was the guy who first determined that the Earth and the other planets revolve around the sun, and that our planet isn't actually the center of the universe, as some people still believe. And at the time, in the middle of the 16th century, that was common knowledge. There'll be time to explore this lovely town and seek out a spot for lunch before we continue our drive deeper into Masuria, which is Poland's Lake District. By the latter part of the afternoon, we'll reach our destination, which is a peaceful lakeside town that will be our base for the next 2 nights. And we have a particularly iconic place in store for you. I'm here in the heart of Poland's Lake District, a landscape of interconnected waterways, forests, and charming towns. And in the middle of it all is the town of Giżycko. And behind me, our lodging, the Hotel St. Bruno, which offers us a glimpse into Masurian history while providing modern comfort. This carefully restored 14th century Teutonic Knights fortress has witnessed centuries of Polish, German, and Prussian influence in this strategic lakeland region. What makes St. Bruno special isn't just its thick stone walls and Gothic elements, but how it balances historical authenticity with contemporary luxury. The original vaulted ceilings and brick details remain, while guest rooms offer the refinement our members expect. Today's excursion will take us through the rolling countryside to a place which will leave us with a chilling look inside where the last Great War was run from. I'm here inside the Wolf's Lair, hidden in the Masurian forests of northern Poland. This was once Hitler's Eastern Front headquarters, a vast concrete fortress where he spent over 800 days directing the war against the Soviet Union. In fact, behind me is the very bunker where Hitler himself spent most of the war carrying out his evil work. While Auschwitz confronts us with the horrific consequences of Nazi ideology, the Wolf's Lair reveals the cold, calculating center from which those horrors were orchestrated. It was here, in July 1944, that Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg's briefcase bomb narrowly failed to assassinate Hitler, an event that might have altered history's course. What strikes me most here is the bunker's immense scale. Concrete walls up to 8 meters thick, and the site's eerie isolation. After retreating, the Nazis attempted to demolish these structures, yet they proved almost indestructible, standing as grim reminders of humanity's darkest chapter. Understanding Poland means confronting both its suffering at Auschwitz and the machinery of war that targeted it from this forest compound, two sides of the same tragic history. We take off from the Lake District this morning towards the Baltic coast, and our primary stop will be one of the most imposing buildings in the whole country. I'm here at Malbork Castle, not only one of the best kept secrets in Poland, but in fact in all of Europe. Most Canadians haven't actually heard of this incredible place, but it's actually the largest brick castle in the world, and of course a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was built back in the 13th century by the Teutonic Knights, and Malbork was once the epicenter of a powerful medieval order. Its vast halls and stunning courtyards and impressive defenses tell a dramatic story of battles, intrigue, and centuries of not only Polish but European history. This is one of the truly awe-inspiring stops on our journey around Poland. About an hour outside of Gdansk, Malbork Castle is an absolute must-see, full of hidden stories, just waiting to be discovered. The last leg of our trip will have us staying right in the heart of Gdansk for a whole 4 nights. This, for me, is a city that was on my bucket list for a long time, and on arriving, it certainly didn't disappoint. Walking around here in Gdansk's old town, you might feel like you've landed in Amsterdam, but without the crowds. The city's stunning architecture features rows of tall, narrow, ornately gabled houses, a legacy of its Hanseatic past and deep ties with the Netherlands and Flanders. Add to that the Motla River winding through the heart of town, and you'd really think you were in the Dutch capital. But Gdansk is so much more than beautiful facades. Just a short distance from here is Westerplatte, where the very first shots of the Second World War were fired on September the 1st, 1939. The heroic week-long defense by a small garrison of Polish soldiers, overwhelming German forces, became a symbol of resistance and marked the beginning of the world's deadliest conflict. After the devastation of the war, Gdansk was lovingly rebuilt in this Dutch-Flemish style, giving it a unique charm and vibrant atmosphere. It's also a city of modern history, home to the legendary Gdansk shipyard, where Lech Walesa and the Solidarity movement sparked the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. Colorful facades line cobblestone streets, and the vibe is lively yet relaxed, making Gdansk a hidden gem, rich in history and spirit, an unforgettable highlight of any trip around Poland. Today we'll head up the coast on a cruise to visit Sopot, a charming seaside town known for its long wooden pier, beaches, and a whimsical architecture. I'm walking along the famous Sopot Pier, the longest wooden pier in Europe, stretching over 500 meters into the Baltic Sea. When I say famous, of course, as Canadians, you've probably never heard of it. But this pier has been welcoming visitors since the 1820s, and it offers some of the best views of Sopot's beautiful sandy beaches, the historic Grand Hotel, and the lively marina. But where the heck is Sopot? You might be asking yourself. Well, Sopot is Poland's premier seaside resort, known for its vibrant atmosphere, elegant architecture, and charming pedestrian streets like the bustling Montjak nearby. We'll pass by this beachside town during our visit to nearby Gdansk, which is a mere 15-minute train ride away. And being so close, you might just even come back for dinner. And this brings us to our last full day in Poland. And what better way to spend it than entirely at your leisure? By now, you'll have a good sense of the city and the myriad of things that it offers. There's some fascinating exhibits like the European Solidarity Center, which chronicles the rise of the Solidarity movement and its role in the fall of communism. For those that are interested in local culture, you could also visit the Amber Museum, which highlights the region's long history with this golden gem. But given that the waterways define the city's geography, there is one highlight that is simply not to be missed. No visit to Gdansk is complete without a boat cruise on the Motla River. As we glide away under the green bridge behind me, you'll see the city's iconic medieval crane, a symbol of Gdansk's Hanseatic past, towering over the waterfront. We'll pass colorful facades of the old town, the lively fish market, and the historic warehouses of Granary Island, now beautifully restored. We'll also see the SS Soldeck, which is actually Poland's first ocean-going ship built shortly after the Second World War, which is now a floating museum. And we'll enjoy beautiful views of Olivianka Island and the marina. Further along the river, we'll see the Gdansk shipyards, where the Solidarity movement changed the course of history. And as the sun sets, the silhouettes of the industrial cranes create a dramatic backdrop, reminding us of the city's enduring spirit and maritime legacy. This cruise is a relaxing scenic journey filled with history, stunning architecture, and unforgettable photo opportunities. Our Polish journey ends today with a private transfer to the airport for your flight home or your onward journey. But I can say with certainty that you'll leave Poland with beautiful memories and, more importantly, a deeper understanding of a country shaped by resilience, art, and history. If all that I've shared about our trip around this country appeals to you, and if you're looking for more details, the best way to get all the information is to visit our website. You'll find the link in the description below this video on YouTube, and that'll take you directly to the webpage for our next upcoming trips. Also, there on that webpage, you can download our detailed trip itinerary, which is an e-brochure, full color, about 50 or 60 pages, and you'll find all of the trip details, including pricing, terms and conditions, and everything else that you need to know. Of course, if you have any questions at all about this program or would just like to chat with someone to determine if it's right for you, then by all means, please get in touch with us. Give us a call, drop us an email. Paula or one of her team would be delighted to make sure that you have all of your questions answered, to make sure that you have everything you need before deciding to join us on this trip. In closing, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this virtual journey covering our Castles of Poland Sojourn trip. I hope it's given you a bit of a glimpse of what you can expect. Our trips are really designed to give you more than just a typical tour. They're really about experiencing a destination as if you were kind of like a temporary local. We've got carefully selected excursions, plenty of free time, as you've heard, and a chance to explore at your own pace while also discovering all of the important aspects of the culture, cuisine, and the history. If you enjoy following our webinars on our new trips, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. You'll find the subscribe button just below this video. That way, every time we post a new webinar, a new trip, you'll be alerted and you could be one of the first to watch this webinar. Otherwise, thanks for taking the time to explore this part of the world with me. And if you're not already on our newsletter list, I invite you to join our community, and maybe we'll see you on one of our trips soon. I'd love to help you get started on this incredible journey. Hope to see you in Poland or somewhere else along the way. Happy travels.